Slater. I'm the executive director of Clay County EDC, and we're here on behalf of the Northland Education and Business Alliance, and we've got a couple co-hosts. We got Brian Noller, who's the director of the Northland Career Center.
Hello.
And we have Jane Stanley, who is a college and career professional guidance person at Oak Park High School in North Kansas City School District. So let's just introduce our presenters. Mayela, you want to go first and just let us know a little bit about how you landed in your job, what you need to do to get there.
Yeah. So, hi guys, my name is Mayela, and I am a business data analyst. So I went to school in Missouri S&T, which is in Rolla, Missouri. I went to school at Van Horn High School, and I actually did the networking systems 2-year program at Herndon, which is what got me into my career choice. I did that when I was in high school, walked through all the technical courses through computers, everything from networking, security, programming, and building a computer. So when I was in Rolla, I actually got my information systems technology degree, doubled with business management, and then I minored in enterprise resource planning, which is kind of how got me landed into manufacturing. So what I do as a business data analyst is I help either configure or implement brand new systems for companies. So currently for Continental Disc, which is a company in Liberty, Missouri, they do flame thrusters and random parts for a lot of our industrial. So what I do for them is help them implement a brand new system. They are a global company, so that kind of makes it hard if you're trying to make sure that it runs smoothly and all 4 different systems talk, which is the finance side, the customer side, the engineering side of things. Everything has to talk while you're in the systems have to communicate across the different countries, which is US, India, Netherlands. So that's kind of what my main job is. As a system analyst, I do anything from system configurations. So maybe if they want a button to change what it does, print a report to certain people to, from a certain facility, or just to change the looks of it. That's the configuration side. And then the analyst side is helping them make business choices and running reports on their databases. So it's a very broad field, which is why I love it, just because, especially right now, we are, like we have gone remote, and technology is kind of where everything will always kind of lead to. So yeah, that's what I do for my company, and that's how I got there.
Nice.
I want to say something real quick for there too. If we have 44 attendees with us, so again, thank you for joining us. If you are a student or a teacher and you're looking to try and adjust mics and cameras, you won't see it. This is a webinar. So after the 3 panelists introduce themselves, please, if you have questions, ask them in the Q&A part of that. And Ms. Stanley, who's on our call here, will help facilitate those questions. So just wanted to say that one more time. That's been a big thing today, is that you will not see your mic or your camera. So just make sure whatever questions you may have for either 3 of them, please ask those through the Q&A. So.
Chris, what's going on in North Carolina? What brought you to Haldex?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I think this is an extremely important thing to do. So I'm the manufacturing manager at Haldex Brake Products in Marion, North Carolina. Haldex is headquartered in Kansas City. So I do get to spend a decent amount of time out there, and I think it's a really great place to be right now. I went to school at Penn State University in Pennsylvania for mechanical engineering. I moved down to Asheville, North Carolina with my wife after graduating, and started my career at Altec Industries, who is also headquartered in St. Joe. Did a lot of sheet metal fabrication there and designed the truck bodies for Altec for a few years. From there, I moved into another design engineering role at OMG Edge Systems in Asheville. Continued my career in sheet metal and just design, but started realizing that I really wanted to be on the manufacturing side of things. So Haldex gave me that opportunity, and I moved to Haldex in 2018 as a manufacturing engineer. Earlier this year, I completed my master's in engineering management and received a promotion to manufacturing manager at Haldex. So, you know, my day-to-day is just solving problems as they come up. Our supervisors on our production team report to me, and I'm out there fighting fires on a daily basis. And just one thing that I think is extremely important for people that are trying to get into this industry is just problem solving skills are huge, and realizing that, you know, every opportunity we have to solve a problem is just that, it's an opportunity. We don't want to be punitive with our employees. We just want to get better continuously through small improvements. So that's kind of my background, and that's how I ended up at Haldex.
Very good. Madonna, how'd you land at LMV? What'd you have to do to get there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I work for LMV Automotive Systems, which is a part of Magna International. Magna is a global automotive supplier. They make various car parts for customers like Ford and GM. I form part of the human resources department here. Training is one of many specialized areas in the field of human resources. My specialty area is developing people. Key focused areas are identifying skills gaps, implementing programs aimed to improve work processes for employees, things of that nature. I'd like to share with you guys a brief history of how I started in this career path, since our audiences are high school students. In high school, I was actually a member of the debate team and participated in local and regional competitions. The relevancy in this is I actually was a very shy kid growing up and had a speech impediment. My high school counselor actually recommended that I try debate as a way to improve my social skills and work on my pronunciations. In all honesty, I disliked it at first. A lot of reading, obviously. It took most of my weekends competing and constantly arguing on topics, things like that. But it actually, debate really helped improve the speech impediment, and I saw a drastic change, which is what got me interested in, you know, pursuing something in the field of training or organizational development, that sort of thing. So I went on to graduate from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. I received my bachelor's in communication studies with emphasis in Spanish and marketing. After college, I was involved in many internships, all related to my field of study. Fast forward about 10 years later, I've specialized my career path in the area of training and development. I've transitioned from healthcare to nonprofit, construction, and most recently, automotive industry. So as the training coordinator or specialist, essentially, it's exactly what it sounds like. You're a person offering training in job-specific areas. You know, companies right now are very much focused on training people in technical skills, job capabilities, that sort of thing, to fill in positions like technicians or automotive operators, engineering, welding, that sort of thing. So my job is very much ingrained in teaching computer application skills, product assembly, policies, procedures, that sort of thing. About 50% of my time as a training specialist, I'm developing and presenting information, creating structured learning programs, managing group discussions. Think of it as like a teacher, but for professionals. So across the board, training is very essential to the success of any company and the growth of employees.
Well, thank you very much. And students out there, this is all about you. So put your questions in the text and we'll let Jane run through those. But in the meantime, I'll just keep asking, what do you love about your job? Chris, let's start with you this time.
You know, in our manufacturing environment, it's really that we're a smaller site, so I have a lot of responsibilities that you might not normally have as a manufacturing engineer, manufacturing manager, whether it's purchasing parts or implementing new products. Really, every day is a new challenge. Every day we have a lot more opportunities that we have to work on, and you really don't know what you're getting into on any day. So it keeps everything fresh, and I really like that about it.
Mayela, I'm sorry.
It's fine, Mayela. So yeah, kind of like how you just stated. I think it's just the change. Everything it kind of changes every day. You never know when you're gonna get what we call a red ball. Something that has to get done now in the moment. What I personally like about my position in the manufacturing field is that I get to work with a lot of people from cross-functional areas. So as a person who works mainly under the engineering team, but also works with the operations and IT, I get to see and get exposed to a lot of the areas, a lot of the processes that there is. I mean, there's times where I'm working by myself throughout the day, but there's also days where I'm just constantly working with people from different sites, companies, and or just different team members from different levels. So sometimes I might be in the plant, sometimes I might be with the leadership team. So I really like that flexibility.
Madonna, you're up next, but in the meantime, you don't want to keep hearing questions from me. Get something to Jane. So here we go.
Okay. Well, I enjoy the creative process of taking complex processes and simplifying them for employees. When you can take the stress out of learning by making sense of what that job looks like, it really does help employees boost their confidence out there in the workplace. Effective training coordinators really get people excited about learning new stuff. So I take a lot of pride in building trust with people and getting them comfortable with new information, especially people new to manufacturing. It could be very intimidating at first. So it's just really exciting to build rapport with people and have them trust you to navigate those murky waters sometimes when they're starting a new role.
All right, great. This next question, I think any of you can probably answer. Can you give the definition of manufacturing?
I would say, just like Chris mentioned, fighting fires. If I could define it that easily, it would be just that. But no, all-encompassing manufacturing is an exciting industry to be a part of. Anything that you feel proud of, when you're looking outside your window right now, look at all the manufacturing that we do in the United States, anything from car parts, buildings, schools, all of that infrastructure it's what makes up the United States, and we get to be a part of that change. That's exciting.
All right, the next question is coming from a welding program. And can the panel speak specifically to or how the trade of welding works into their company?
So at Haldex, we don't have a ton of welding processes, but through my time at Altec, welding was essential to everything that they built there. They had a really great program where they would take you from training you on how to use a tape measure and just what each increment means through becoming a certified welder. Before you ever worked on a part, you would be in a booth being taught how to train the different welds that you can learn through that, what's a quality weld and what isn't. And then they would take you into the production environment where you're actually, if your welds aren't quality, it's going to increase scrap and is going to slow down production. So, I like the way that they did that, where it was from the earliest building blocks of what it takes to be a welder through actually, becoming a professional welder.
All right, our next question. Can one of you speak, or specifically LMV, what experience do you need to get started? If I was to be hired onto your company, what experience do I need to have?
Absolutely. One of the critical areas to consider is, first and foremost, you have to understand the company objectives, the core values and expectations. I think that's always a good start. Automotive is super fast-paced. Having the mindset of being flexible to working different hours is important. Open-minded to change. Things change a lot here. They're always in flux. So just being a person that's conscientious of that, having initiative to identify problems and finding solutions on your own rather than going straight to management to find solutions for you is also super critical. At the bare minimum, education backgrounds vary, but I would say employers right now are really seeking folks with bachelor's degrees, concentration in management, marketing, business growth, project management, those sort of areas.
Hey, Jane, can I have us go back just to the welding question again for the other two companies? I know that one of the kids that asked the question is one of my welders. So would we, maybe LMV and Continental Disc, talk about welding in your company?
Absolutely. So we actually have a 5-week training program for either interns, apprenticeship folks, and people interested in the welding. We do a lot of cross-training here too. So if you're an engineer, for example, and would be interested in being cross-trained in the welding side, that's also something that we do here. We highly encourage cross-training. The program is actually quite fascinating right now. We're in the process of implementing virtual reality, augmented reality as part of our training platform, which is super helpful for our welding and engineers. They get to see things from a HoloLens perspective, and then they get to actually apply those skills on the floor.
Okay. What about a Continental Disc from a welding standpoint?
Hi. So I don't really know too much about our welding side, to be honest.
Okay.
All right. The next question is, how much technology is involved in your everyday job, in your job as a whole?
So in my job, a lot of computer work, Microsoft Office suites and similar products are hugely important, as they are in most professions at this point. And then at that point, and I think it's getting easier as we get through each generation here, but adapting to new technologies as they come out. In my line of work, we implemented a mobile CMM, which is a coordinate measuring machine. You have to learn how to be able to program those, how to use them, what the different inputs are. So I think, it really depends on what you're looking at. But the flexibility and being able to adapt to new technologies is important, I think.
Yeah, so I would agree. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mayela.
So I would agree with Chris. I think technology is basically everywhere in every company. It doesn't really matter if you're just, if you're in the office side or if you're on the plant side, you're going to have a system that runs everything in the company. From my experience with Continental Disc right now, we have people who have been in the company for over 20 or 30 years. So, giving them a change and a new systems and everything that they do day to day is really, it's obviously going to be a change for them. So being, good at technology or just in general, I know we're all basically raised with it nowadays. But the more you can get exposed, it is definitely very useful, even if it's not your primary interest. It's just software and systems are going to be changing every couple of years. Everything always gets upgraded. So it's definitely a useful skill to have.
Yeah, piggybacking off of Chris and Mayela, technology is really changing the way we think about automotive manufacturing among other industries. I mean, if you just look at the trajectory, technology is literally changing the way we design cars. And so we're using a lot of that, Generation X's, millennials, they have a say in how we build things, how we develop them, how we design them. And it's changing the workforce. It's changing the way we train people, the way we incorporate technology to enhance new, things on the floor, production, business. It's everywhere. And as far as you physically working on technology yourself, absolutely. I mean, Microsoft Office is always a software that's used in the workplace. Computers, webinar, Zoom. It's a part of our daily routine.
All right, great answer. I know we talked a little bit about experiences you needed to start in one of these careers. Are there specific skills? Maybe there's a class or certification that would be useful in getting a job in this industry.
I can name a couple. One thing that I've been really interested in, and I've been telling people that I know that are going through similar experiences to everyone on the call right now, is programming is going to be hugely important in the future. If you can start learning that now and get into programming, it's going to be extremely important in manufacturing in the future. After that, you know, do some light reading on lean manufacturing, be open to the general idea of that. And if you've got a good attitude and you're open to change, I think those are some great qualities and skills to have going into it. But specific skills are really going to depend on the area you go into. Everyone on this call has different skills that they use on a daily basis and that they're specialized in. Mine being engineering really comes down to problem solving. But if I had one skill to kind of recommend to everyone, I'd say programming.
Cool. I think for my advice would be, especially if you're in school right now, you can find a vocational course, trade schools, any of that's offered through your schools. That would be probably my number one advice. That's how I got introduced into my career. I chose a hobby that I really liked, which was technology, and I really just kind of ran with it. I got pretty lucky, but also it could work either way. You can really get invested in it, and all you really did was a semester while you're in school, and you learn more about it, whether you like it or not, and then you can have that experience. And just, you know, those pretty much they vary, whatever kind of, whether you want to go into cars or computers or whatever it is, I would just probably look around for those options.
Can I add to that, Mayela? First of all, thank you for the vocational reference. I have 30 students right now that are on the call that are sitting in this building watching from a vocational school. So thank you for that reference. And then, you know, I will say one thing that I would love to hear too is, you know, is it predominantly a male field, or what are the opportunities for young ladies in this field, especially in maybe the entry-level technician type roles?
I would definitely, from my experience, just in STEM in general, it's definitely still male dominated. I mean, I went to school in Rolla, which when I got there, it was a 7-to-1 ratio, 7 guys for 1 girl. I think it's, you know, improved 4-to-1, I think now. But, but yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely opportunities. It's getting a lot less scarier. I still sometimes walk in the room and I'm, you know, one of like 2 girls in a group of 50. It gets a little scary, but honestly, there are opportunities there. It just depends on where you want to go in. Just don't really let it scare you. There's definitely also just in education, scholarships and whatnot, that kind of helps us too, because there isn't many of us joining the workforce yet.
So specifically at LMV Automotive Systems, it's interesting because we have metrics that show us exactly what are the trends and, you know, specific demographics coming into the manufacturing. And women actually are our lead technicians on the production floor. So we have more women operators than we do men. It's quite interesting. As far as leadership positions, we're starting to see a trend where more women are coming into those roles. And I think the more interest we build in the skilled trades, the more that we'll start to see that shift in the next couple years.
Okay, thank you. Jane, I may have accidentally clicked out of the question, so I apologize. But I didn't know if there was any other questions out there from other students. I think one thing that maybe always comes up, and I want to give a shout out to a young man named Tommy, who I see on the call that is interested in a job at, I believe, one of the three of you that is on the call. So I'll make sure. I know Tommy's encouraged him to watch today, so I appreciate him watching. Tell us a little bit about maybe the wages that are available in these careers in terms of starting wages and operator to technician roles or other roles, please.
I can try that one out. You know, at the operator level, at least in North Carolina, I think it's slightly higher in Kansas City. Depending on if you find work through a temporary agency or not. At the operator level, you could be looking at anywhere from $16 to $20 an hour. In engineering, you know, a lot of companies, depending on the discipline you go into, and with that, for the most part, you got design, quality, or manufacturing in the manufacturing environment. So I think manufacturing engineers typically are paid the most. In terms of starting salary, you could probably be looking anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 a year. You know, after that, it just depends on the paths that you go on. With engineering, you can stay technical your entire career. You could also move into management, and there are different branches of how that affects your salary. On the production level, with our facility, the only place to go is to either our maintenance department or to a supervisor level. There's pay increases with both of those. So, you know, a lot of it depends on what you're interested in and where your skills kind of lie.
Thanks, guys.
So what's the most challenging thing you've ever done in your field? Mayela, you look ready to go. Madonna's got the mic up.
Wow. Well, the most recent challenging thing I've ever done, I would say I was recently tasked with building a leadership program to help improve managers and team lead, area lead leadership skills, as well team morale at LMV. That's a big ask. So, you know, key skills needed to run a program like that successfully. Obviously, effective communication, support from others is critical here, right? You have to be able to work with cross-functional teams and create relevant material that will impact on the floor. It has to be relatable, right? And I think that's something that we can easily struggle if you're not prepared. So those would be my most recent challenges, I would say.
Nice. Mayela?
Yeah, I think my most recent challenge was, which is probably the most challenging, rewarding, and scary all in one. It's leading the project that I am for Continental Disc is the implementing or migrating the data from old systems to new systems. There we're going from 4 or 5 different types of systems, you know, just getting this brand new, nice and shiny system. 2 new systems, I think. So that was pretty challenging, mainly because I was brought onto the project to assist, and then very quickly was given the project. And you know, like Madonna mentioned, talking to cross-functional team members, knowing every aspect of the manufacturing company was kind of scary, just because I had mainly focused with engineering, and I had to go and learn about what inventory does or what customers and sales need. There's a lot of aspects in manufacturing company that make the company run. So that was very, very scary to try and learn. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's just being agile, adaptive, and learning how to, you know, communicate with everyone and work with people as a team and alone. Those are very great skills to have.
What about you, Chris?
I had a similar project that involved a lot of the elements that were already discussed, but you know, we had to implement a product with a 4-month we had 4 months to implement a brand new product. So it gets a little scary when you're talking about working with teams that are outside of your building in the supply chain. Once it's out of your control to control a lead time from a supplier, it gets very scary, especially when you're on a tight timeline. So that was one of the tougher projects I worked on recently.
Jane, you got a question?
What is the salary range for maintenance technicians at LMV Automotive specifically? And do you have any internships or apprenticeships available?
You know, I would have to get back to you on that question. To be frank with you, I'm not sure what the range is for a maintenance technician. And I don't want to give you a ballpark that might be inaccurate. But as far as apprenticeship and journeyman programs, absolutely. Adam Jelinek, who's on the panel today, can speak to that a little bit more because he's actually running that project.
And that question came from one of our students and teachers. So I will make sure to connect Mr. Sayre, our teacher, to Mr. Jelinek for that question.
So how important is
Brian, we can't hear you.
Oh, go ahead.
How important is it to get your supplies on time? If a truck gets in a wreck or gets tied up in traffic, does it shut down your whole plant, or the logistics behind the shipping and receiving it? Chris?
Yeah, that gets into the fun conversation of inventory. So it depends on if you're just in time, like a Toyota facility, or if you might hold more inventory. So we typically try to keep 3 months worth of inventory in stock so we can adjust with those situations as they arise. But it depends on how much risk your company's willing to take. You can run extremely thin on inventory, and you can have a truck be delayed and you could be down, which is extremely costly. Or you can have a ton of inventory, but on the opposite, on that end of the spectrum, you can kind of think as raw materials, as all of your inventory, as just cash that's sitting on a pallet. It's cash that's not moving. And part of manufacturing is making sure that you're keeping cash moving through the system as much as possible. So it depends on your company. We try to keep about 3 months worth of stock on the shelves.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, that's actually part of like the planning and operations. So, for people who are good at planning or just really organized, that's obviously very important for a company too. So not everything has to be technical. Sometimes we just need people who are the brains and, keep us in track too.
So this question is coming from an industrial maintenance program, and there's 16 students in this class that are watching. In class, they go over a lot of safety. How much focus is spent on safety in this industry?
I would say a lot. I know my company, pretty much mostly all companies would go through training every couple of months, if not at least a year. Depending on what your position is in the company, you may go through more training. So, I mean, for us, is everything from walking you through the plant and, they're red taping certain areas. Safety goggles are, needed. Can't go into certain parts of the company without your steel toes, without your glasses. It's huge. I mean, one risk could really hurt someone's health, which is not good.
Yeah, at LMV, sorry, Chris. We are heavily involved with safety here. I'm actually a part of our ergo committee here who focuses a lot on, finding areas of improvement for safety. We host, on-site huddle meetings, which are, meetings at the pre-shift level where people are constantly talking and reiterating safety processes and procedures. And we also onboard new employees, and it's almost, we eat, live, and breathe safety is what I'm trying to say. It has to be so embedded in the culture that, there's no exception. We just know.
Go ahead, Chris, finish that one off if you would.
I totally agree with everything that was said. In our plant, we really try to get the pull the chain culture. So if you don't feel like something you're doing is safe, you 100% have the ability to stop what you're doing until the situation can turn into a safe work environment. And I think as everyone's getting into industry, if you find that a company puts production over your own safety, it might not be the place that you want to spend your career.
So there's a question about apprenticeships, and what age do you need to be to start an apprenticeship?
I would say right after high school, or your senior year in high school, you should already start thinking about apprenticeship programs in your field of study. Would be my recommendation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I think kind of knowing what your interest is early years of junior high, high school, and really looking for those options and resources, whether it's sophomore, junior year, just that way, whenever you are able to apply, you know exactly where you want to go and apply to.
Okay. And then Jane, you want to ask Chris the last question maybe?
Sure. What is the usual work time per day? How many hours does an employee get a week?
Traditionally for us, it's an 8-hour workday. If we run overtime, it'll be 10-hour workdays. So most of the time it's between a 40 and a 50-hour work week. I've worked at companies that work Saturdays, that work Sundays. That tends to be a tough subject. But you can expect during normal times between 40 and 60 hours a week. As companies get into different financial situations, you might see, voluntary time off and other things come up, but typically between 40 and 60 hours a week.
Chris, I want to come work in North Carolina.
Nice.
Well, I think we're out of time. So we'll wrap it up by just saying thank you to our presenters. 3 great companies in the Northland. Chris is coming to us from North Carolina, but Haldex is located here also in Platte County in the Northland. And then we also have Continental Disc with Mayela and Madonna from LMV Magna. So thank you for being with us. And Jane, thanks for facilitating the chat too, or the quick Q&A.
Chris, next time you're in town, you have to come up and see the Northland Career Centers. See what Brian's got to show everybody.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thanks, David.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up here. So thank you for being with us today. And again, if you have other questions, students on the call, then reach out to myself or Mr. Slater, and we'll get in contact with these folks. Okay.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.